awesome. It's awesome. So this was the car that we built first. In the first simulator we made 23 years ago, GTR1. And the first car we modeled was that, Lister. You know, it had such an iconic look, and it was such a beast, such a monster of a car. It was inspirational. And we were a very small team, and we were going up against the big boys. So when they said, who are you going for in this game? I said, yeah, we're aiming at Gran Turismo, we're aiming at Forza, maybe not in the original game, but that's where we're going, down the line at some point. And it was this ethos of David versus Goliath, and that's what that car is. So it's not just got the look, it's got this ethos, this inspirational ethos that we really subscribe to. Well, this is pretty much as it was. They've done very, very little to it. So that car is effectively as it was 23 years ago. It was a hero car for us. When we looked at the cars that were available on the roster, that was the only car you couldn't really go and buy and drive around the street. This was special and very successful.
So I've just driven the Lister Storm in the real world, and for the next 6 months it's going to be a case of recreating these real world experiences in-game with Straight 4. So we're driving a variety of cars. My role is a handling consultant for our new game. Very exciting, very different, very groundbreaking. And we've got a lot of cars to get through from all different genres of motorsport. So coming back into this for our third mission together is really, really exciting. So the Lister is always kind of seen as the ultimate badass. I think partly because of the way it looks, partly because it had 700 horsepower, and partly because everyone knew it had a monster V12 engine. It's a 7-litre engine, it's absolutely vast. Jeff Kingston was just telling me, I think it weighs 242 kilograms, which is a big old lump, bearing in mind that cars I used to race, LMP 900, the whole car weighed 900 kilograms, including the engine and everything else. So it's quite a big lump sitting up in front of the car, and a big brawny lump of power under your right foot. I was quite surprised actually to drive, it was very sedate. So braking force was really amazing. Power steering works pretty well, although there's a few niggles with that at the high speed when you start to juggle a little bit, possibly because it's an old car. But you can imagine what that would have been like back in period. With the wick turned up fully to 700 horsepower and with the setup fine-tuned, it would have been a real animal. As of today, it was pretty easy, quite placid, lots of understeer, so it was really hard to make a mistake. But it was really fun. The big news with this game is it's using a completely different physics engine. So the processing power, the fidelity, the feedback you will get as a driver through the steering wheel, that's what's going to be much more visceral. That feedback is absolutely crucial to the connection between you, your brain, and the virtual car, to create that connection, basically.
Yeah, that's actually quite special. The car just came in a couple of minutes ago, and yeah, it looks very impressive. It looks much more muscular and much sort of more impressive in real life than on photographs. So although I know the car quite well, I've been over the whole shape. Seeing it in person is always a little bit special. Yeah. I was just starting with the team when the first game was out with the Lister. It's a very iconic, very recognizable car, and it's really cool now to see it again in today's modern state of games where we are going to high details. Seeing the car in person as well now is also special.
I've got it 9 o'clock.
It's an interesting cockpit, this one. Presumably, these blanked off bits, I presume that's for cooling the driver. But in this case, the driver is being punished. They've riveted those closed. And there's no windows. So whoever drives this has made an enemy in the team, clearly. But otherwise, it's pretty awesome. So you've got your ignition switch, start button, fire stuff, you want to leave that alone. And as is usual in these Le Mans cars, tons of fuses. So things often go wrong, fuel pumps go down, you have a spare fuel pump. So all these different fuses here, the drivers who are in this machine will learn exactly what those mean, so that at any given time, including when it's pitch black, you can thump one of those and hopefully get a backup system going, or bypass something that's not working, if you get a misfire or something like that. Plus you've got your usual data enjoyment up here on the screen, and you can scroll through that with these buttons here. So they have spoiled the driver a little bit here. They've got a nice little flash button and a drink button with 2 flash modes. So clearly, whoever has been in this car is quite an aggressive driver. So it's got 2 types of flash. Presumably one is please move over, and the other one is get the f*** out of the way. ACK, don't know what ACK means. Radio for chatting to your team when you get lonely.
In that bit
So along with the Ferrari and the Vipers, the Lister is one of the most well-known, well-recognizable cars, especially in this livery. It's really great for me as someone who played those games back in the day, now getting to work on them, to make them myself. Yeah, special day. Back in the day, sort of 20 years ago, the level of computer tech was much lower, so the car was maybe 25,000 polygons. Today we're up at 250, 300,000. Every small detail needs to be made in 3D fully. Basically, we're modeling everything, the materials, the textures that we need to make. Yeah, it's a whole different level.
Sequential box, which worked really well, and it's got a flat shift, so you don't have to lift off the gas. You just bang it through. There's an ignition cut that just literally in a split second just cuts the spark to the engine. It's enough to release the tension on the gearbox, and you can crunch through to the next gear. I counted 5. The really interesting thing down here actually is the pedal box. So if you have a little look down into the footwell, you can see it's actually quite cramped space. So your little feet, I've got size 10s going on here, and I always try and wear a size under with racing boots because basically big feet aren't convenient when you're trying to reach the pedals. My legs are off centre because they have literally done all they could possibly do to bring the engine as far back into the driver's lap as possible. To take this engine out, they actually have to remove the dashboard and the windscreen. It's that close.
Also, getting access to the cars, high detail photographs, 3D scannings, all that kind of stuff is critical for us. So yeah, we basically have to replicate the car exactly as it is behind me. It needs to be down to every nut and bolt.
Technology's moved on a long, long way, but it's great to see this Lister Storm's got some great parts on it. The technology obviously is nowhere near as advanced as current racing, but this car was a beast in period. So on the Lister Storm, we've got twin exit both left and right hand side, and as you can see, here they are. This car, it runs a cable throttle, so when it's coming down the pit lane, on the pit speed limiter, you have to modulate the throttle because basically, it's not like a modern car where it's got fly-by-wire. You have to pull the throttle back because the ECU's not smart enough in this, so it'll keep throwing the fuel in. Basically, the exhaust temperatures will come up, but when this comes down the pits, you'll see some good flames.
Check this out, have a look in there, look in this scoop here. It's a massive hole in the bodywork. It's the sort of thing that Adrian Newey would probably look at and go, oh, not sure if that's working, boys. In terms of drag and aerodynamic efficiency, massive rear wing, obviously, and you can see sort of hints of the road car design. And then this looks pretty strong, the diffuser. That's going to do its job with a fairly flat floor. These things are not quite so well made. They look a bit flimsy. But all of that, the aim of it is to be channeling the air as cleanly as possible. So you want the air to go as fast as possible through the bottom of the car and slow it down in the areas like this to create the downforce. As to what that's doing, I'm not entirely sure. Might have to wait for the engineer to come to show me that. And then you've got a bit of Batmobile effects. Here you've got oil, water and fuel overflow. So basically if you put too much in, it just spits it out the back into the face of the drivers behind you. Many racing teams known to do this on purpose. You get a face full of oil. But despite the looks, this car looks pretty menacing, to be honest.
Ben or whoever else is going to go around, and if they can then back to back from the real car to the sim, they can start saying where they think it feels different, and then it's kind of our job to try and work out why. It's getting those subjective statements and trying to work out what to do with them, but we need drivers to be really articulate, to be consistent, not only with the language that they're using, but also with the way they're driving the car in both situations, because if we have the same car and we have the same track and even if we get everything right, if you then drive it differently, because it's still going to feel different. You haven't got the G-forces going on, you haven't got the vibrations, you're not moving around. You've always got this different subjective feel in a sim that you can never fully recreate because ultimately you're not moving, you're not in that car. So you need to also allow for that, and with a bit of training, I think the drivers can also get used to that, and they should be able to know what is just a sim versus real world difference and what is actually a difference between the modeled behaviors. A car is a combination of all these different complex parts interacting, and so if they say, oh, the car is a little bit loose or it does something in this particular instance, they could be going around a corner, they could be going over a bump, they could be rolling off the brakes or feeding the accelerator. You've got so many transients and so many things interacting and affecting the way the vehicle drives, and it's hard to try and work out which one of them is maybe off that will cause the car to be slightly different in that case. So it's not an easy job. I think the biggest surprise we've had while working was during the development of the tyre model. We found that we've got a setter-based tyre model, and we run it at various different frequencies and sort of like in a test environment, like a virtual tyre test rig. And if we run the frequency really, really fast, like tens of thousands times per second, we start to see this other emergent behavior. You get an initial sort of peak of grip come out of a tyre sort of laterally, which very quickly fades away, and then it goes back to the kind of normal sort of slip curve behavior that is much more known. This sort of phenomenon isn't, well, we haven't seen it mentioned in any sort of publications, but race drivers do talk about it, and they talk about this bite that cars have, immediacy to the turn-in that happens before they settle into the corner, and we were able to see it's actually a real thing, and it falls out of the tyre model naturally, which we're very pleased to see. So that was probably the coolest thing that we've got out of all the new physics. We've mentioned before that straight forward we're running the physics at 720 hertz, but I'd like to say a little bit more about what that means, and in fact it's only tip of the iceberg. So 720 times a second is how often we're moving the vehicle, we're updating the tyres, information, the suspension, all of that sort of things. But we've got more going on than that. So the driveline itself, so this is like a one-dimensional rotation of all the engine parts, the gearbox, differentials, and the wheels. That actually runs 10 times faster, so that's 7,200 hertz. And the new internal combustion engine model that we've got is actually running much quicker than that. So we actually simulate every 2 degrees of crank rotation. So that means something like 36,000 hertz or something for the sort of typical RPM range that the race car engines will be running at. We've recently got access to all of the historic setup data for the Lister, so that allows us to see how the real engineers over the course of its career have made changes from track to track and over time as they've learned things. And so we can go back and look at that data and try and understand why have they done it. Does it make sense to us with the model that we've got? Does it always feel like improvement? Because it should do. And also we can look at the track to track setup differences that they're doing, and if we should be able to apply those same differences that they've made, and it should work in the sim as well, and that should be also close to the sweet spot. And that would also just verify that the whole detail of the model that we've got is correct. We're taking quite a physically based approach for the new combustion engine simulation. So you are able to enter things like the bore, the stroke of the engine, number of cylinders, you can set the cam profiles, organize the lift, and this will all have the appropriate effect on like the torque curve and the throttle response that you get. And the reason we've been able to achieve all of that, we're now doing a one-dimensional compressible fluid simulation. So we actually simulate the fuel going in, the mixture, the burning. The burning can take time. We've also got a very detailed turbocharger model, so you can go through and the turbine will very correctly, collect all the boost, send it back through. It's all properly simulated. You can do supercharges as well, which is easier, and this is all going to work, and it's just going to be a whole new level of detail. It's not far beyond what we think is out there in the competition. The final emergent effects is we can do things like niche and timing, so you just naturally get backfires, wastegates, pop-off valves. It's just all part of that detailed, realistic simulation. And we just hope this makes for lots more emergent behaviours and a more interesting driving experience, and all those extra little bits of detail that have been missed in previous games.
I know that they're going to tear up the rulebook. New engine behind this whole thing, the whole physics can be completely renewed. It's a big, bold statement, and I'm super thrilled to be part of that again, and we're going to really be punching for it. So I can't wait to see what we come up with. Have you been on track before?
No, not here. Yeah, no.
This is,
Actually, it's my first time. Yeah.
but you've been on other tracks before?
No.
Oh.
It should be fun, I guess.
Do you like flying?
Yeah.
Okay, you should be fine then.
Okay.
Did you have a big lunch?
No.
Okay. A big lunch usually helps the stomach feel okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for future.
So we'll go full speed, then we can look at the track and you can feel everything, and then we can talk about the experience and how it relates to the game.
Okay.
But I need to go full speed for that.
Okay. What is full speed, by the way?
It means maximum push.
Yeah. And it's about?
Oh, 160 miles an hour.
Okay. That's crazy.
What's the fastest you've been before?
Something about 100 miles.
Okay, yeah, it will feel faster than that.
But with not so powerful brakes, so yeah.
Okay, here we go.
So, Silverstone has gone through multiple configurations over the years. Do you remember what your initial reactions were at the 2009 redesign after you first drove it?
What was the question?
If you remember your first reactions,
Oh, when they changed the track. Yeah, the best thing is just to go out and drive it, really. I looked at the map, and it looked a bit different, but I got used to it pretty quickly.
so what's a common mistake that you see new drivers and rookie sims racers make around Silverstone in terms of line choices?
Yeah, driving too slow, usually. You okay?
Yeah?
So this curve here, I always use that on the way in. Bumps is quite bumpy. You can use a lot of this exit curve here. Those bumps, they can unsettle the car. You want to carry some speed through Beckett's. Again, you've got to lean it in a bit. It's quite high speed. There's a curve, you can jump that curve. Down to third for this one. Try and tighten the line up a little bit. This is important to carry speed onto the back straight. Past the bridge, get top speed here, roughly 160 miles an hour. You really feel the braking force of stone. Nice rotation on the way. There's a bit of a rumble on the way in. The camber of the road just drops off on the way out this corner. It's easy to lose the tail. I like using the brakes. So you've got some really sharp braking areas like here. Getting all the power early, but really digging the brake pedal quite late.
Holy
Is
shit.
a really good way to make up time around Silverstone. Clean exits, using all the road and all the space. Well, I think that the grip levels on the sim are pretty close to real life. The difference is you don't get the G-force. So you have to use other things in the sim to show the driver what's happening in the car. So there's a lot of feedback through the steering. It's always nice if you've got a motion rig, so you can feel the weight transfer, like getting the weight onto the nose here for cops. It's critical for your turn-in to get that front end working. And then try and overtake cars like this F40. You get a really good rhythm through here as well, slicing it nice. But in general, I think they get the grip pretty accurate, don't you?
Yeah?
What's the next question?
I think I'm done.
Right, very late here. You can really carry a lot of speed into this left. It's really quite a fast corner. Tail's a bit loose. And something has come loose. Ah, it's the car key. Let me just deal with that little problem. Do you mind holding this? Thank you. Well, what you get really with Silverstone, it's a very flat track. So, typical airfield circuit, it's built in a flat area for takeoff and landing. But actually, when you get onto the track, you see that there is little changes in the topography, little crests and rises that do make a bit of difference for the grip and for how you perceive the corners of the track. So mapping those is really important. But the flow through Beckett's and Maggots is fantastic. It's one of my favourite sequences here. And the secret to a fast lap is being pinpoint precise with where you put the car to cut through to really save time. Because although the track's very wide, you still need to make as much space as you can.
Yeah.
You can have a little rest now. How are you?
I find with it.
Yeah? How was your first experience on track?
It's quite difficult.
Are you okay?
I personally recommend to go to the box.
Do you want to go in?
Yeah,
Do you want to go in fast or gentle?
gentle.
Okay, I'll bring you back gently. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ben, for ride.
You're welcome.
That
Did
was
you
fucking
enjoy it?
hell.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
of course.
I'm not sure you
But
enjoyed it.
my stomach it's a bit protesting.
Finished.
Yeah.
I hope you feel better soon.
Yeah, thank you, Ben.
No problem.
What is it?
Anytime.
Bye.